Kebatu is due to be deported this week. The demand for answers and assurances likely to last much longer. Lauren Moss, BBC News.
Well, let's speak live to Cassia Rowland, a senior researcher at the Institute for Government who specialises on the criminal justice system. Thank you so much for being here with us. The obvious question is how a mistake like this could actually happen.
We don't know that much about the specifics yet. That's something that the government is looking into pretty urgently, I imagine. But I think what's important to stress is just the degree of pressure in the criminal justice system, and particularly the prison system at the moment. So we've got very tight constraints on prison spaces, despite the kind of emergency early releases that have been going on under the Labour government and the previous Sunak government. There's still a real lack of capacity in prisons, and that just makes everything really challenging for the workforce to deal with. Exactly how this happened is really important to get to the bottom of, but the clear underlying problem is this system that is in just a kind of slow motion collapse.
Well, tell me more about it. Tell me more about how stretched the system is, where you think the real pinch points are that could contribute to a mistake like this happening.
So there are a couple. I think one is in prisons themselves. They're dealing with a lot of churn at the moment. So they've got a lot of prisoners coming in and a lot of prisoners going out, more than usual, because of the capacity crisis. So because prisons essentially ran out of space last year, and since then we've had these emergency release measures to try and kind of manage day-to-day capacity. That means you've got many more people coming in and going out of the system every day, and it's become much more complicated to calculate exactly when people are meant to be released. So the kind of the workload on that has gone up a lot. The other problem, I think, is actually in the probation service, because they are massively short-staffed. We've got a vacancy rate of about 30% for qualified probation officers at the moment. And they're really struggling to handle the kind of offenders that they're supposed to be supervising and making sure that they don't pose a risk to the public. And so they're more likely to be recalling people to prison, sending them back into prison if they feel like they can't manage the risk appropriately in the community or things like that, just because of that level of workload that they're dealing with and the staff shortages. So that probably wasn't the problem in this specific case, but all of that means that the system is just really struggling to cope, and that they're having to deal with all of those entrances and exits that make it much harder to manage.
We shall see what David Lammy maps out when he's questioned in Parliament a little later, but already the government is saying that the prisons have to carry out extra checks. Is that the solution, given what you have just said? What do you think is the best way of navigating to a better place?
I think it can be part of the solution. It's hard to say when we haven't seen the specifics of what those extra checks are going to look like. There are some things that clearly wouldn't be proportionate, like checking with the Justice Secretary before you release anyone high profile. That seems like it wouldn't be workable. But given that we've got these unusual emergency measures in place at the moment, I think it probably is appropriate to be doing additional checks to kind of manage those changes. It's inevitable that when you change the system, more mistakes are likely, so having more checks seems sensible. But it's not going to address the fundamental problem. And given just how stretched the system is at the moment, I think it's going to be a real struggle to implement effectively.
Cassia Rowland, we have to leave it there, but thanks so much for joining us and giving us that assessment. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, the Home Office